Hello and welcome back. This video has been pieced together over several years of a project that I'm working on.
If you expand your Carrera track, most likely you're going to buy an additional set. The additional set gives you extra controllers that you need, and you're going to wind up with an extra control unit, plus extra track and extra cars. All of that can be incorporated into a single set, except for the control unit. You only need one of them. So I found myself with an extra control unit. I actually have a couple of the older black boxes as well. Then I got some of this track given to me. This is Artin 4-lane track, and it's called American stock car set. This is the radius 4 turn. It's basically ovals, and there's 2 sets in here, so I have enough to make 2 ovals or 1 figure 8 or something different. But it's 4-lane track. It's radius 3 and radius 4 turns. It has this really excellent border that clips on. There's a couple reasons why I like this track over the Carrera. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to plug this into my extra control unit and run my digital cars on here. I'll be able to use the control unit for lap timing and, you know, keeping a database of the cars and things of that nature. But one of the things that's really nice about this track, you don't have to lift it up off the ground and reach underneath for the clips like you do with the Carrera. They have the removable red clips that go here. This is just a push button on the top right here. You just push this in on 2 things and just pry it apart and it pops open. And even the border just clips on like this. So that's how I got started down this crazy path of wanting to make this Artin 4-lane track digital. Originally I was just going to use it for lap counting, not do anything with lane changes at all. But then I got into researching Artin DigiPro. And I do have an Artin DigiPro set that I added to this. Then I purchased another Artin 4-lane set that has radius 1 and radius 2 curves. So right now I have enough to do an 8-lane figure 8 using this Artin track. So I'm going to document that and show you the steps that I take and how we get from there. But first step is I'm going to make a conversion track to go from 4-lane Carrera to 4-lane Artin. So here's a Carrera track. If you have 4 lanes, it'll be too wide. Artin will be over here. The interesting thing about the Artin is that there's a groove here, and they give you these little clips that you can hold it together. So what I want to do is I want to make the center the same on both tracks. So if you look, I have to bring this over just a little bit, and then this lane I have to bring over quite a lot. I happen to have some of this, which is the narrow section that I never really like putting on my track because we run the, but look at that. That will complete the outer one. So I just need to come up with a solution for bringing this over, and it doesn't have to go over very far. So that should be a cinch. So some conversion tracks coming right up. On tracks like this one, where there's no wires crossing over, you can just set your guide on your table saw and just run right down the middle. So we're going to rip this right down the middle and just use 1/2 of it. Okay, so here's the pieces ripped right here. And we're just going to take and be able to connect them out here to the end, like so. And it's going to bring the outer lanes in, and it's going to line them up with the Artin outer lanes of the 4-lane setup right there. So that's part of it complete. Now, for the inner side, we only need to come in slightly, very slightly. So what I'm going to do is use this crossover, and we're going to cut a couple, about 3 inches off the end of that crossover. We're going to use it to bring the lane in. Then we're going to flip it and reverse it. So this is going to go in here like this. Trying to hold the phone with this while I'm doing this. There we go. So this will go in here like this. We'll use this to bring the lane over and then back out. So we're going to cut it right about there. Because as you can see, the inner 2 lanes of the Artin, if I line them up on the, they don't have to go very far. So we just need to drop it over a little bit and then line it up and convert to Artin. So we're going to cut I would say about 3 inches off that. Let me see how that works out. Now, when you're cutting these with the table saw, obviously, you have to take the metal out. And that's pretty easy to do. If you flip the track over, you're going to see these crimps in the rail. All you got to do is pinch those crimps with a pair of needle nose, and the track just falls right out. The rail falls right out. You got to pull this end piece off too. I find that you just pry them in with a little screwdriver and pull the end piece off. So, okay, let's see what's the next step. So you can see my Artin adapters are in there now. This is what's left. I just cut about 2 3/4 inches off of each edge. I'm hoping that I can get it to fit. I should test it, but so the Carrera track comes in here, swoops in, and then dumps into the Artin on the other side, the same thing. Now I just need to do the inner lanes, and that's a very, very small adjustment. I'm going to have to cut this a couple of different times. I got the metal pulled out. I have the wires out of the back so that it's safe to cut with the table saw. So let's see what we have to do with this. All right, so this is the Artin crossover piece. You can see I cut some corners out of it. And the way it's going to work is this is 2 1/4, this is 1 3/4. The Artin rails are just small enough to slip inside the Carrera rails. And that is going to make my transition from the Carrera to the Artin on the inside. And it's also going to keep it so that I can just do 4 lanes for each side. If I just made it a straight transition,
It could only be 2 lanes.
so this is the bottom of the conversion piece. These 2 are Carrera straights. They will come off. Down here are 2 Artin straights. They will come off. In the middle, you can see how this lane is going to come out and then in and join there. This one comes in, and then there's just that little wiggle right here. Same thing down here. So there are a lot of gaps. You can see I got gaps all over the place. I had to cut multiple pieces, but everything's in place. Now I'm going to take and glue patches all over the bottom to seal everything up from this line to this line. Everything's going to be glued together, sealed down. Then I'll flip it over and I'll use some Bondo to fill in the gaps and smooth it out. And then we'll see what it looks like when it's all done. So here's the back with all of the patches in. You can see that I used the defective bases that I keep in from the bases that I manufacture to sell. So I use them to just kind of glue over and patch it. And when I flip this over, it's not a very pretty sight. There's really no excuse for measuring this poor. We have these kind of gaps, but that's okay. I'm going to fill all this in with Bondo with some Body Putty and smooth it all out. And when you're done, it'll just look like one smooth transition from Carrera 4-lane to Artin 4-lane. So here's the top with some Bondo smeared in it. It's actually pretty smooth. You can see where the Bondo filled in all of the gaps that I had. I'm going to have to Scotch-Brite the rails a little bit to make sure there's no Bondo on there, but then I'm going to paint that black and it should be all done. So here's the finished piece painted up. I want to give you an important tip about the Bondo. Don't wait for the Bondo to harden and then try to sand it. Get something like this tool right here. It's just a little flat thing. And what I did is I let the Bondo get like a little bit gummy so it wasn't sticky, but it was still very soft. And I just ran across there and it peeled right up. It was real easy to do. So it's a little rough, but this is my Carrera to Artin piece. I got another one over here to finish up. I just got to put the rails in. I'm also working on I'm installing some digital lane change pieces into some Artin tracks so I can have single lane changers. And then I have the Artin lane changers that I converted. Okay. One of the things about the Artin DigiPro system that I didn't realize in my earlier 2 videos, the most obvious difference is the Artin has the sensor on this side and the Carrera has it on this side. So if you remove the sensor and drill a little hole and move it over, what happens is the cars change lanes every time you go across, regardless of whether or not you push the button, which is exactly how the Pro X system behaves. So the stories that I had read that the Artin DigiPro was made by the same company that did the Pro X, I believe that there's a lot that is compatible between those two systems. So the other thing is the Artin controllers. I haven't been able to get them to work yet, but one of the things that's interesting, if you just take this little button here and snip it off, because the Carrera uses one that's offset, and plug a DigiPro system into an Artin controller, if you notice, the lane change button works. So the lane change on this works, but the throttle does not. I can't get this car to go.
So I broke down and bought a set of these. So I got one of these with the transmitter and then a total of 6 controllers.
I got these lane changers off eBay for $5, and they were broken. They have cracked pieces. The backs are broken off of them, stuff like that. But they're only $5, and the internals actually worked. So what I did with this Artin lane changer, I took 2 of them and put them in here. And the little servo, it fits perfectly. So it's a pretty easy conversion, and thankfully I was able to get 6 of them for $5 each. So, you know, my total investment in this isn't really extreme. I did buy the DigiPro unit just because I was curious about it. And if I can get these controllers to work and have 6 working controllers, that was a good bargain. I do have the lane change. I have the Artin pit lane now working. Setting this up, this is where I film my battle reports and stuff. And I got 6 of these Walmart tables, which are 2.5 by 6 foot. I'm going to put them up against the wall, give me a 5 by 18 foot surface to build the Artin track with the Carrera Digital. And I just moved my little TV watching area and I had to slide the chair over there. So yeah, this will be, I'm going to build a track and test my tires on plastic. It's going to be an oddball track, just pretty much for running tire tests. So that'll be in the next video, but this is a video about how I built the track.